This is when I first walked out of the building. I was across the street from the Merrill Lynch building looking down the block. At this point, people had no idea what had just happened, except that a plane had hit the World Trade Center. Most of the thinking at this point was it was a private plane, someone had a heart attack, and it hit the building. So still to this point, I'm not sure what people were thinking. But as you can see here, the building is fully engulfed in fire. Helicopters were there, even though I know numerous times it was mentioned that helicopters were not there. There's just no way they could get close to that building with that updraft of smoke. Having been there in the earlier incidents with the World Trade Center, helicopters were able to land on the building because the explosion was down in the basement. Once again, I'm still across the street. At this point, I moved to the corner of Vesey Street, and this is Vesey and West Street. That was a bridge over there that used to connect the World Trade Center to us. At this time, I realized this was not, for sure, this was not a small plane. As you can see, it's taken up most of the building from the left to the right side. That building was pretty long. There's flames coming out of the window. At this point, I realized that there's something major going on here. I'm not really realizing where I am in the scheme of things. As you can see, I'm literally maybe 300 feet, 400 feet from behind, from the World Trade Center. I hear somebody yell in the background. You hear, oh shit. The second plane now hit. This is the South Tower that just got hit. That's a policewoman moving me back off the corner. I'm still not realizing what's going on. I thought it was a missile that hit. You can hear me talking to Manny Mavros, who's standing next to me, and I tell him that I thought it was a missile, but they're shooting something at us. I think you can hear that coming up now. I under a tree here, thinking that might save me, but there's metal pieces actually falling to the ground at this point. You can hear the little noises of stuff hitting. It's a scary point at this point, this time. Once again, now I believe and I know that we're being attacked. There is no doubt about it. A lot of police activity in the background. Things are happening.
Did you see the
here I'm talking to Manny.
I saw the first one.
It wasn't a plane then.
The first one was a plane.
What the hell was that? This one?
I don't know. Somebody just said, here comes another one, so they saw something come in.
It looked to me like a missile or a bomb or they're shooting something.
Yeah.
From my vantage point, I was able to see that it was a plane, but I did hear the jet engine, which I interpreted as a missile at that point. We moved back a little bit more now, just where the American Express building is on the right. The fire now, this is still the North Tower, is engulfed. At this point, the policewoman,
Let's go!
the police officer comes and chases me out of the area. Moving along, the lens cap is still on the camera, as you can see here, but the voice is still on. I am now at the end of the World Financial Center. From here, we're trying to board the ferry that will bring us to Jersey. Me and Manny thought the furthest we could get away from New York, the better off we would be. My thought was to go to Jersey, hook up with Manny, go back to his house. By this time, Billy and the group that we were hanging with, George and that group, they've all dispersed. I have no idea where they were at this point. I'm trying to get a hold of, this time, telling Manny to try to get a hold of George or Bill. I'm trying with my cell phone to get a hold of my wife, my brother, my mother, my father, someone to speak to, make them sure that they know I'm okay. But there was just no way you could use your cell phone. It was completely unusable. We're watching this in disbelief.
Plane hit there and went through. What was the second?
So you can see I'm still discussing what's going on. So these are some of my thoughts that were real.
So they wanted everybody underneath when they hit it for the second time.
So my thought was they would want this underneath.
Hey, Bruce.
And once again here, these are the people waiting to get onto the ferry. When the ferry came in, they wanted tickets from us, but they started screaming and telling them that they're not getting any tickets. You can actually see the guy tell me to lower my camera, but I was crazy at this point. I couldn't get out of New York. All I knew was I needed to get out at all costs. The ferry is in now. We believe this is going to Jersey City. I really want to get on the other side and continue to take video. We don't realize until we're actually on the ferry moving that we're going to Hoboken. Sometimes I look back and nothing happened, so I guess it was a future. But this time there's a little panic going on. I'm actually on the boat right now, still videotaping. I know that the South Tower got hit, but I still didn't realize how bad it was hit at this point, because all the smoke was combining into one big bellow of smoke, so it was very hard to distinguish what building was producing the most smoke. But evidently the South Tower was pretty bad. At this point we're actually watching, not watching, but we see that people are jumping from the building, and about a second or two I actually have a person that had jumped. I think probably to me that's the part that sticks in my mind the most, is unfortunately having to watch people jump to think that how hot it was, that they would rather have died jumping than stay there and be burnt up. This is a person here that you can see that jumped. The boat's starting to move. I have a feel of relief here at this point that I might actually get out and alive. And at this point I'm just thinking getting it out alive. I don't know what else is going on in the city or the state or the country. All I know is that I need to get out of here. We start to travel across, and now at this point I realize that we're not going to Jersey City, that we're really going to Hoboken, which is a little further north. That was okay. At that point we had decided, me and Manny, that we would get on the Jersey path and take that up to Newark, and then I would go back to his house. But unfortunately, that doesn't happen. The path that we do get on takes us back into the city. Manny decides to go back. I basically decide to go into the city. My cousin Christopher, who has him and his father Dominic, who have a place in the city that do blueprinting and stuff, was right near 34th Street, so I decided to go to 34th Street. Here you can see what a beautiful day it was. I mean, there wasn't a cloud in the sky. Both buildings are fully engulfed. Helicopters are still trying to get near the building, but can't. The tower on the left was where I know Philip was. Some of the people in my group should have been there. At this point here, I'm holding the camera down, still going evidently. I didn't want to edit this film. I wanted the original, and that's what I'm using here. At this point, I'm completely sick to my stomach. I can't speak to my wife, my children, my brother, my mother, my father. I can't get a hold of anybody to let them know that I'm okay. I know that they knew where I was. A thought about that is when I went back into the North Tower after a month, I played back my phone messages, and having heard those messages from my brother and my wife and my friends, Tom Caracciola left me a message. People were so nervous of what was going on and that I was okay. It actually brought tears to my eyes that, you know, people were really that concerned. I never knew those phone calls existed until I went back. Here you can see the buildings are really going. Smoke is actually heading south now, and it moves east in a little while. Well, I guess this is southeast. Brooklyn, when I got back home, there was debris all over the cars there in Brooklyn. That was a little bit later on during the day. But once again, you can see it was just a beautiful day. And I'm thinking, why on such a beautiful day would something like this happen? When I get into the city, I tried to get on the F train to get home, or the D train. They're not letting me get on any of the trains. And we were there about an hour and a half. And someone finally mentions that the Pentagon had gotten hit and one went down in Pittsburgh. When I walked out of the World Trade Center, a woman was coming down the opposite way crying hysterically and said, "I can't believe they're gone. I can't believe they're gone." And I had no idea what she was talking about until I walked into the street and saw that there was absolutely no more World Trade Center. When I went back to my cousin's building, I walked back down Manhattan. Here we're somewhere in Chinatown walking from 34th Street back to the Manhattan Bridge. We wanted to get back home. I didn't shoot any video in between. All I wanted to do was to get out of there. You can see the cars are full of debris. There's just stuff all over the place. We're breathing in this horrible fumes. The taste in your mouth was just unbelievable. They had moved us from bridge to bridge. From the Manhattan Bridge, they told us we had to go to Brooklyn. When we got to the Brooklyn, they sent us back to the Manhattan. Here we are actually crossing the Manhattan Bridge. No one really knew what was going on. It was helter-skelter. Here I am looking back. Both buildings are gone. There's nothing left but a pile of debris. And I'm thinking to myself, I personally could not believe that this is gone. There are thousands and thousands of people crossing the bridge, young and old alike. At one point, they helped this woman who was a little bit older carry her package, but she couldn't go anymore. I sat her down on she had a full folding chair with her. And unfortunately, I had to leave her behind. It was not an easy thing to do, but I knew that she would be okay and somebody would, along the way, take her. They were worried about bombs being on the bridge. That's why they had to close the bridge several times. I'm walking across here thinking that if I could just get to the other side, I would be fine. There's a baseball field. I thought this was apropos, an empty baseball field. And this is how close these animals did what they did. I mean, killing 3,000 people. In my heart, I can never forgive these people for doing this. That's the FDR highway, completely empty, one car going down, full of dirt and dust. The Brooklyn Bridge, which still flies the American flag on top, which I'll zoom in a little while. When I got back over the Brooklyn Bridge, I couldn't get a bus, I couldn't get anything. The guy Joe was still with me. We just kept walking and walking. We got to 4th Avenue and Flatbush. And we started to walk down 4th Avenue. I figured if I could just get close. Once again, I had gotten a hold of Lucille, so they knew I was okay, which made me feel better. From Christopher's office, I was able to speak to her. So I did feel a little better. She was letting my family know that I was okay. But I still needed to get home. I still didn't know about my cousins who were in the city, where they were. I knew my children were okay. I knew where my son was working that day. I knew my daughter was off that day. As you can see here, the American flag is still flying. To me, that was very symbolic. It was almost, as the Star Spangled Banner talks about, the next morning the flag was still there, and I thought that this was a nice shot to shoot with the World Trade Center gone in the background, smoke and fire rising. America is still here. And I thought, this is Joe talking. That's Joe. There's the people still walking across the bridge. I actually had people yelling at me, why was I taking pictures? I don't know, it's something I've done my whole life, taking videos. I just thought it was important to document what I was seeing. I knew I was close to home at this point, and that's all that was important. I knew my kids were okay, my wife, my grandchildren. And this is the end.